Johanna Steinmetz at the Chicago Tribune says, this film works well despite its predictability, perhaps because of it. Variety magazine says this film is a good showcase for the comic abilities of this threesome, all of whom seem to have their one-liner timing down pat. And about its sequel, Letterboxd user Mallory Andrews says, not that I expected it to, but this childhood staple does not hold up, though peak post-magnum Tom Selleck does. Meow. On this episode of Ruined Childhoods, we decide the fate of 3 men and a baby.
Sequel. Reboot. Which one will it be?
It's the Ruined Childhoods podcast.
Greetings, Starfighters. It's D to the Izan, here with J to the Izon. Nope, that...
Okay, so before we recorded, Dan told me that he had actually scripted out what he was going to say at risk of not knowing what to say in advance. And Dan, I have to know, did you realize that?
Yes.
Oh, you scripted out that whole thing, did you?
I'm sorry, not to I didn't want to pull back the curtain here, but yeah, this is like, I think a Ruined Childhood's first that I did not just improvise whatever comes after the Greetings, Starfighters, but, and as earlier today, because I do think about it. It's not like I don't think about it. And then as I'm saying Greetings, Starfighters, I'm like, oh no, I have to, I just never know what it's going to be. And it's like a slot machine. You pull the lever, it's shit spinning around. It could be a cherry. It could be a, $, who knows? So okay. I don't know what this was, but yeah, no. And I guess I was listening to one of my, my favorite songs earlier today, Izzo by Jay-Z.
Is that one of your favorite songs?
I would say it probably makes the top 20.
Really?
In 2001, that was my in like late 2001, early 2002. That was my jam.
Really?
Really?
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I am a man of many tastes.
Hey, look, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just I find it surprising, that's all.
You find it surprising that a fan of Hove?
I've just never been around you while you've been listening to Jay-Z.
Not that you know of.
I guess.
I might.
That's fair.
I'm like always listening to Jay-Z. There's always
something
going on.
It's always going on in there.
Yeah, no.
Well, right now, our listeners are listening to Ruined Childhoods.
Yeah, all right. So
the podcast about taking cult and classic movies and imagining what the world would be like if they were brought back as some sort of prequel, sequel, reboot, etc.
Yeah. When I was just toying around with that, I'd be like, oh, it's like D to the is on, D to the is and, J to the is on. And I thought about that J to the is on. And I was like, that's
doesn't work.
That's weird. So yeah. Anyway.
Doesn't work. I appreciate your attempt. Hey, it's all good. It's all good.
I hope someone got a chuckle out of it.
Yeah. Well, I certainly did. But so we are talking this month about films from 1987. One of my favorite years in movies, just because of how ridiculously fun the movies are.
It was for both of us a formative year for us as moviegoers.
Yeah.
It was I would say 87 was when I really started to get into going to the movies and got into the experience and had fun, and especially that summer.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, we saw a handful of movies, but the movies of that summer just stand out to me as like, wow, you had in theaters at, presumably at the same time, you've got Spaceballs and RoboCop and La Bamba and Back to the Beach, and there was a Benji movie, and
Right.
Snow White and the Seven
Everybody's
Dwarfs.
favorite Benji movie.
Yeah, no, it's Benji the Hunted. So you've got Masters of the Universe that we've talked about, Predator.
Yeah.
But then you've got Full Metal Jacket.
Yeah, for sure. It's a wild year, a wild year for movies. And I'm so glad that we're celebrating that year.
Yeah.
You were 10. Well, let's see. You were like 9, 10, and I was 4.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
great time to be watching movies.
Yeah. Yeah. It really
Can't say I was watching all those movies at that time, but certainly some of them snuck in.
you didn't really get into Predator until you were like closer to 8.
Yeah,
And Full Metal Jacket was
8 3/4 maybe.
Full Metal Jacket. I feel like when you saw it when you were 4, you liked the second half better than the first half, and then when you saw it when you were older,
I did like the second half. Yeah, and everything switched for me
it's just that maturity.
once I hit
that,
9 or so.
that age. If you,
Yeah.
it's kind of like Markov point where it's when you watch Full Metal Jacket before you turn 10, you're less into the training, you're more into the actual battle, and then you hit that maturity. Maybe it's 10, maybe it's 13. The coming of age in
Right.
many cultures, that the age when you become an adult. And it's like your bar mitzvah. You watch Full Metal Jacket and then you're like, I am so more interested in this first half of the movie and these two characters.
It's a different scenario altogether. Your brain is formed.
It's like you're
a
seeing
little bit more.
It's like you're seeing it for the first time, but with the consciousness of having seen it before, like in a past life.
Yeah, I think we're done with this bit. Do we want to go over our one more thing from The Exorcist?
Why not? Why not? By the way, that's probably the most that we're going to talk about Full Metal Jacket because
I don't know.
who knows?
I'm sure it'll come up another. We're not going to cover that movie, but
You never know when
It'll
Full Metal
come up.
Jacket's just going to pop up out of nowhere.
Yep.
So yeah, go for it.
so I had a few things. One thing I had written down in my notes but forgot to mention is that actually you could probably verify the year. This might have been 87, but we went on a trip to Washington, D.C., and just like Father Karras, had quite a bloody incident on a set of stairs.
At Arlington Cemetery,
You're damn right.
This was, I want to say, November 1986. John, here's my memories of that trip. Now,
Okay.
I remember, first of all, the book I was reading at the time, Tales of a Fourth Grade Nothing.
Okay.
I was appropriately in 4th grade. I mean, I'm pretty sure I'm remembering this correctly, but I'm pretty sure it was, November 1986, and we were at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier.
Right.
How well
Well,
do you remember this?
I only remember mostly what I've been told. So, and I hadn't been told anything in a long time. So I'm remembering being told about this when I was probably 10. So I thought that it was like the changing of the guards. And all I know is that for some reason, so we were sitting on these like concrete steps.
Marble. I'm 95% sure. Marble.
Well, somebody had to get some marble cleaning solution that day because I made a quick turnaround with my head and busted open my chin.
Right on the
one of the
corner.
steps.
Right on the corner of
Yeah.
the step. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And
So,
yep. And when we went to the hospital, it was the same hospital where Reagan had been taken a few years earlier when he was shot by John Hinckley.
yes. I remember for some reason hearing that I was being stitched up in the same like room where they had brought Reagan.
I remember this
But they
too.
probably tell that to all the 3-year-olds.
Yeah. Wait, is this the room? Is this the room you brought Reagan after he was shot by John Hinckley because he was trying to get Jodie Foster's attention?
Yeah.
Jeez, you watched 60 Minutes or something?
One quick,
One quick question. Just to be clear, this is when John Hinckley shot him.
That's me when I'm 3. So the other thing I remember about that trip is that I believe I had a doll named Charlie.
Oh, yes.
And Charlie, it was a Fisher-Price doll, mass-produced with the name Charlie on it. I did not come up with the name. And I believe I left Charlie in a cab, and our father, like, tracked down the cab and got it back. Either that, or he made that up when I was pissed off at him for something at some point.
No, I don't think he would go to that effort. No, I mean the effort of making something up. That does sound familiar to me, though, about Charlie being left in a cab. That sounds...
And Charlie now belongs to my daughter, who loves Charlie dearly.
Wow. It's amazing.
Yeah. So that was our trip to DC, which I was thinking about the bloody stairway in DC, and it's like, memories.
That reminds me, I need to track down my photos of when I was in DC in 2010. It's 2009 or 2010. And walked the steps and have pictures of myself on the steps. So I made it. So that actually kind of segues nicely to my Exorcist one more thing, two more things. One is just something that didn't come up on that episode, but is worth mentioning whenever you're thinking about producing, adding to the Exorcist legacy. And that's the kind of rash of strange accidents, some of them deadly, that have happened on the sets of Exorcist films. And it's kind of known as this like Exorcist curse, where it's like, oh, some light will fall on a stunt person.
Pazuzu, you old trickster.
Well, we know Pazuzu has a wicked sense of humor and is certainly vengeful, though I would think Pazuzu would be happy, because who's the real star of these films minus Exorcist 3?
Ellen Burstyn? Oh, no, Pazuzu.
Come on. It's like how
the Pazoos.
It's like how, come on, the real star of The Rock, San Francisco.
Yeah, sure.
Alcatraz Island is the real star of that movie.
Yeah, so like everyone loves the scenes of them going down that really steep, windy street.
The chase, though, that's a great chase scene. Anyway, we're not talking about The Rock. I'm not going to go off on a tangent.
Okay, so the curse of The Exorcist, and another thing that we didn't mention is that, and this is still along similar lines, is that one of the people in The Exorcist was an actual serial killer. The kind of physician's assistant when Reagan is getting the procedure to take the imaging, the guy with the beard was an actual serial killer, and it wasn't discovered until after. I don't know if he had been an active serial killer at that time, but was and actually I believe was the basis for another Friedkin movie, Cruising.
Oh, really? Oh, he was the basis for Cruising?
Maybe the inspiration. So pretty interesting.
So
Cruising is a wild movie.
I have never seen Cruising. I have heard about it.
You should definitely check it out. It might be my favorite Pacino movie. Like, it was before it was like Pacino.
Yeah, I can't. So I am not even going to try to do an Al Pacino. We will wait until we have Cesar Gracia with us, who does my favorite Al Pacino impression.
Okay. Yeah. So this is like before he was the Pacino that people do impressions of. And it is completely wild. It takes place in the like 1970s New York underground S&M scene. And there was a show, God, I want to say it was on Comedy Central briefly, called John Benjamin Has a Van.
Oh, yeah.
Are you at all familiar? Yeah. So it was early Nathan Fielder is on that show as like a sound guy. And there is a Cruising like reference in like one scene that's like, you don't know what it is unless you know what it is. It's a weird thing to have a reference to in a comedy show.
It definitely has a cult behind it, though. So I was just looking up to see just crazy stuff about the Exorcist. And I wanted to see if anything had happened on the set of the television series, which, by the way, finished season 1. And it's like, while I have my qualms with it and I roll my eyes at least once per episode, I am compelled to continue watching. I'm sorry. There's no better word to use. I want to keep watching. Second season, it gets away from the whole story with Gina Davis as the adult.
Oh, does it follow
Reagan.
Somebody else?
Yeah, it's kind of like, and this season, well, so it's like season 1 ends with Father Tomas, the young doubting priest. Like, by the end of the season, he has no more doubt, and he has his calling. And this is after Father Marcus has said to him, like, you could be great, like you'd be a great exorcist. And it's kind of like this, like almost like a older gunslinger, young gunslinger. And he's like, you could be good. You'd be good at this. And he's like, at the end, he's like, that's who I am. It's what I do. I am an exorcist. And oh boy. And well, this is when he has to perform an exorcism. Spoiler alert on Gina Davis, not. Oh yeah. No.
How is Gina Davis in it?
Yeah, I have enjoyed her in the. She has fun. She goes full like Charlie Baltimore.
Oh, okay.
Spoiler alerts again. During the exorcism of her daughter, she's in the room, and at a certain point, she invites Pazuzu to take her instead.
Oh, so the way that Karis does that, yeah.
Yeah, so the demon kind of possesses her, but it's kind of like, since the demon's already been in her, he's claiming that that he's achieved integration, which is where you cannot separate the person from the demon. And she kind of takes control of this plot that they have to kill the Pope. And like high up in the Catholic Church, there are just tons of like possessed priests.
Oh,
that are integrated. Okay. Like they're like the demons have integrated fully.
So that's how Pazuzu's story ends. He is now part of Reagan.
Well, no, because then they perform an exorcism. There wasn't actual integration. The demon was exaggerating.
Oh, okay.
Well, Father Tomas felt that there was not integration. He felt like he could do it. And the whole family really contributes to the exorcism. They all pick up the Bible and they all do the call and response. So it ends with like them just like they're going to leave, like they're going to leave Chicago. They're going to move somewhere. They're going to like go to Canada or just go somewhere kind of.
Yeah, Pazuzu's never seen Canada yet, so
that bitch can't cross borders. Oh wait, except he did get here from Iraq.
Yeah, he was in Iraq, and then he went to DC, and then Chicago. Yeah,
no.
Let Pazuzu see the world.
Yeah, but you know what though? Canada's too nice a place. Canadians are too nice.
Universal healthcare.
Pazuzu's just like, ugh.
Does that include exorcisms? Does universal healthcare include
exorcisms? Is that covered?
Exorcisms?
What if it's a pre-existing condition? Like you've been, like Reagan would qualify? Would Reagan qualify for that?
Reagan. Oh my God.
Yeah. So, but when Gina Davis gets possessed and she turns all cold, there's some weird, there's like some creepiness at one point with the daughter, because they've already established that Pazuzu is pretty pervy. So.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So that's my one more thing for The Exorcist is basically there's 2 seasons of the TV show. And if you're into that, if that's entertaining to you, I recommend it. Check it out. Currently streaming. I watched it on Hulu.
Cool.
Yeah.
Our friend French Fry Phil has a kind of a one more thing for The Exorcist.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and read Phil's email if you don't mind.
Go for it.
Phil says, do you guys remember in the 80s, before cable television exploded, it seemed like every Saturday afternoon there was always either a couple of westerns or horror movies on local channels? That's how I saw a partial version of The Exorcist. That was enough for me, and as much as I love the Ruined Childhoods podcast, oh, thanks, bud, you couldn't convince me to watch it again. Still an entertaining listen as always. Thanks, bud. It's so cool that like even a edited for television, your mother knit socks that smell version can scare somebody so badly that they still won't watch it again.
Well, and to respond to Phil's email, that was how I first saw it. I think I said on the episode, like taped off of the USA Network, and where it was on like whatever late at night, and it was an edited. It was a cut down version, and it scared me enough to say, "Oh, this is based on a book," because by then I figured out the books have like 10 times more stuff.
So you put down Tale of a Fourth Grade Nothing and picked up The Exorcist?
Well, I think by 7th grade I finished Tale of a Fourth Grade Nothing by the time I was in 7th grade.
You were at the Tale of a 7th Grade Somewhat Something?
Oh, no. I was a 7th grade Nothing. So, no, I like if you look at who demons possess, I was like ripe for possession in 7th grade, but didn't happen. So
you hadn't yet discovered the theater.
No, yeah, kind of. I hadn't yet discovered. Yeah, I had a hairstyle that didn't work with my body, and I wore clothes that didn't work with the hairstyle or the body, and it just kept going and going and going. So. Fuck 7th grade.
Oh.
I'm sorry. I hate 7th grade was the worst year.
Oh, okay.
I'm saying right now, yeah, fuck 7th grade.
All right. Yeah.
All right.
Take that. There's more. There's more to Phil's email.
Oh, yes.
Phil also goes on to say, in 1987, I would have told you that Ernest Goes to Camp was the best movie of the year. I'm not sure we're even allowed to watch that movie anymore. It may have been further vaulted by Disney with Song of the South. In hindsight, my top 3 are the very underappreciated 3 O'Clock High, Throw Mama from the Train, and the previously casted Princess Bride, none of which I actually saw in 87, but all of which I still love to watch. Thanks for writing, Phil. If anybody wants to write us an email, it's ruinchildhoodspod@gmail.com. Ernest Goes to Camp. I know I saw it when I was a kid, but I have not seen it at all recently.
I'm trying to remember why it would be, moratoriumed.
Yeah. I know I watched Ernest Goes to Jail within the past decade.
That's arguably the best one.
Goes to Jail is pretty wild. I remember Scared Stupid pretty vividly. There are some things, there's one thing from Ernest Scared Stupid that Scott, our brother, and I reference without thinking about it all the time. And that is, there's this goblin going around, and there's like this old text that tells you the only way to defeat, do you know what I'm talking about at all? The only way to defeat this goblin. And it is the word milk. But like the page is so old that the letter L in milk is like rubbed out, and it just says M-I like blank K. And he thinks it says Miak, M-I-A-K. And I want to say this was like right around the time my kid was born. Scott was out visiting, and we brought out some milk for her, and he's like, Miak. And I was just like, what? Did you seriously just reference Ernest Scared Stupid? But like, who does that? He does. But it's, it's great. And I just referring back to Phil's email, I don't know if we might cover 3 O'Clock High.
We've talked about 3 O'Clock High.
We've talked about it. We've talked about it on the Kindergarten Cop episode.
Yeah. Richard Tyson.
Yeah. Richard Tyson.
Yeah. And
God bless you.
And 3 O'Clock High. So in my teaching life, I've been doing some remote teaching of Mice and Men. So the movie's been on my mind, and the other star of 3 O'Clock High, Casey Siemaszko, is in that movie. So whenever I watch Of Mice and Men, I tend to think of 3 O'Clock High, but I never see it streaming anywhere, and I haven't necessarily sought it out to watch it in quite some time.
I wonder with this new boom of streaming services, it's available anywhere.
It has to be somewhere.
Do you know what studio put that out? This is me asking you to reach back into your psyche.
Like
It's on Stars through Amazon. So like if you subscribe to Stars through the Amazon app. Oh no, it is actually on Stars proper, which I currently have because I needed to do a trial for this show, and it was like a long deal or something.
Yeah,
So we could do that.
I wanted to say 3 O'Clock High was like the De Laurentiis Entertainment Group, who also produced our next week's film. Or next episode.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which that makes sense to me. I feel like they both are of the same ilk. 3 O'Clock High, I remember watching that on, must have been HBO or like the Comedy Channel, maybe pre-Comedy Central.
Yeah.
It would have been on.
I mean, I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure I rented it on VHS when it came out. Like, I think I was definitely interested in seeing it. So, but we'll hold off in case we'll
hold off on that.
I don't want to say much more.
Shall we get into Three Men and a Baby?
The #1 box office hit of 1987.
Yeah.
Outgrossing Fatal Attraction, because if not one, the other.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, this movie is not what you would expect. I had watched it. Directed by Leonard Nimoy.
Leonard Nimoy. Yes.
Yeah. So this is one where you see it and you think, oh, it's a kid's movie. Wait. Something weird happens. And if you don't mind, I'll just launch into a synopsis. Three Men and a Baby follows Peter, Jack, and Michael, 3 bachelor roommates who live in an impossibly amazing New York City penthouse apartment across the street from Central Park. Peter, portrayed by Tom Selleck, is a big-time commercial architect. Steve Guttenberg's Michael is a celebrated comic artist, most known for his comic strip character, Johnny Cool. And Ted Danson plays Jack, a working actor who can't seem to keep it in his pants. While Jack is out of town on a shoot, his manager tells him that a package is going to be coming to their apartment and someone is going to come pick it up about 5 days later. Michael and Peter are stunned when they find a baby at their front door with a note indicating that it's Jack's child, Mary. Assuming this is the package that they heard about, they do their best to care for the baby until someone comes to get it. When a couple of sleazy guys come to pick up the package, Michael and Peter hand over the baby and a container of formula, which they assume is the $250,000 worth of heroin that the sleazes were expecting. The guys suspect that something is fishy, so they get the baby back, but not without a big fuss from the sleazes and a cop named Sergeant Melkowitz. The guys realize that the package that was supposed to be picked up was actually a small box that arrived shortly after Mary was discovered. Michael removed the heroin from the box and shoves it into a lining of a diaper so that no one can find it. After Jack gets back into town and fulfills the prophecy of the movie's title, the guys have to find a way to bust the drug smugglers and keep Mary safe. All the while, they are growing more and more fond of Mary, which becomes an issue when Sylvia, Mary's mother, comes back into the picture to get the baby and bring her back to her home in England. The guys come up with the ultimate solution. Sylvia can move in with them, and the 4 of them can raise Mary together. Sylvia being portrayed by Nancy Travis. In one of her, I guess, big roles of the 80s and 90s. Now she's on, I think, that show Last Man Standing with
Tim Allen.
Yeah, Tim Allen. I am particularly fond of her in So I Married an Axe Murderer.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. And so in this, the whole heroin thing is wild. And what's interesting about this movie is that the heroin storyline ends, and then there's still like a half hour left of the movie, at least. It's kind of like, all right, now what? And then it's like, okay, now we just have a baby.
Yeah.
We don't have a baby plus heroin.
Now it's just 3 men and a baby and Nancy Travis.
Yeah, and so this is an adaptation of a movie called Trois hommes et un coffin. You can correct my pronunciation, but it translates to 3 men in a cradle, and which has, I believe, the exact same storyline.
Yeah.
And that one came out only 2 years before this. It was 85. So they were pretty quick to adapt it for the American audience. And it is crazy. I mean, it's definitely built around the concept of 3 of Hollywood's big stars.
Well, although
they were mostly television.
Except for Gutenberg.
Gutenberg, right?
Gutenberg at that point, I mean, Gutenberg's 1987 kind of kicked off with Police Academy 4, and then you got Three Men and a Baby. I mean, geez, that's a year for you right there.
What year was Cocoon?
85.
85, right.
So, yeah, no,
so he's been in it for a while, but you got, what year did Magnum PI start?
Oh,
I don't expect you to know that off the top of your head.
Early, late, I want to say late 70s, because it was because of Magnum PI that Tom Selleck couldn't play Indiana Jones.
Oh, it was 1980, December of 1980. And yeah, so Tom Selleck had been, definitely made his name in television.
They had all done movies before this, but this was...
Sure, yeah.
I think for Ted Danson and Tom Selleck, this was the biggest, the highest... These were, I think, their highest profile film roles to date.
Yeah.
And I mean, I guess you could say the same for Steve Guttenberg, though he had already been kind of in that Hollywood leading man category.
Yeah, Short Circuit, obviously
the aforementioned Police Academy.
Yeah. So, and I've actually been watching during our quarantine times, I've been brushing up, going through all of Cheers, which I've definitely seen plenty of Cheers before, but never all of it straight through. And it had been a very, very long time. So it's been really fun watching vintage Ted Danson, who, I mean, and clearly his career has gone to amazing, amazing places.
Oh, yeah.
And he's probably more famous now than he was. I don't know. He's probably equally famous now than he was then.
It's just this legacy. Ted Danson just has this wonderful legacy of both, not just like, I don't want to say carrying a show, but kind of being because I guess he's the lead character of Cheers. Yeah,
but it is really an ensemble show.
It's very much an ensemble show, but he also, though, he plays such a great supporting character, both in Curb Your Enthusiasm,
my God,
playing that version of
Good
himself.
Place.
The Good Place, exactly. And then you see him.
He was great on Bored to Death,
right?
Which I think we might have talked about before. On this show.
Yeah,
great on Bored to Death.
And what was the other?
Becker?
Oh no, Becker. Yeah, no. I was thinking of, because I remember he pops up in. Is it Saving Private Ryan? Yeah, I think it's Saving Private Ryan.
Yes,
where like Ted Danson is commanding like another platoon and has an interaction with Tom Hanks. And you're like, they come across. Yeah. I wasn't sure if I was confusing it with The Thin Red Line. But that's George Clooney who pops up in that.
It's funny that you should say that, because I believe I was listening to Ted Danson and Mary Steenburgen, the Virgin Mary, on a podcast called In Bed with Nick and Megan, with Nick Offerman and Megan Mullally. And Nick Offerman is going through some of his credits and mentions The Thin Red Line. And Ted Danson is like, thank you for saying that. Although I wasn't in The Thin Red Line, I was in Saving Private Ryan. So, common mistake.
Yes. Well, I mean, they both came out in the same year, and Saving Private Ryan had that same element of, isn't that? Although The Thin Red Line was like Woody Harrelson is in The Thin Red Line, Sean Penn.
Yeah,
that's an awesome movie.
Yeah,
it's a great movie.
Yeah, totally.
So, but Three Men and a Baby. Yeah.
3 Men and a Baby, it's really a wild ride. I believe it was put out by Touchstone.
Yeah, Touchstone.
Yeah, so it's Touchstone because the other distributors, the other studios weren't interested in what was considered to be a kids movie.
Yeah.
Although it's really wild that a movie with $250,000 worth of heroin would be considered a kids movie.
In the
there
1980s?
Is a kid in it. I guess, yeah.
It's rated PG.
So.
Yeah. I mean,
mm-hmm.
Yeah, in the 1980s, that.
So, yeah. Dan, I watched this movie recently. You haven't watched this one in a while, correct?
Yeah, it's been some time, but I've seen it. I saw it in the theater.
Do you remember what their apartment was like?
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
It doesn't make sense.
No.
It's the coolest place in the world.
Why?
It doesn't make any sense. The kitchen is like in a greenhouse on the roof. I don't understand what's going on.
It does not exist, and I'm trying to remember which. I know it's one of the buildings across from Central Park. It might be a building that a friend of mine lived in.
Really?
For some time. Yes, my friend Leslie from Cubicle,
Okay.
sketch group back in the day.
Yeah.
So yeah, well, I mean, like Leslie's parents, I think, are in real estate and manage a bunch of different buildings. So, but it's like one of the, it's like in that row of where they are before Three Men and a Little Lady, where they move up. But yeah, I don't understand. First of all, why are Jack is the least successful.
He's the least successful, but he still works.
Yeah.
I don't think that it gets into how they know each other, but you have to assume that they're like childhood best friends or something.
Yeah, there's really no backstory on that.
Yeah, they're super bachelors. So they just, I mean, Tom Selleck is with somebody, but it is not it's an open relationship.
Yeah.
So,
I wonder, sorry, here, I'm just kind of spitballing on that apartment, but it makes me wonder if the three of them, if they each had, let's say in that building, you've got, three separate apartments on one floor. And what if the three of those guys, like they each had their own apartments and it was like, hey, you like having parties and having lots of ladies over. I like doing that. Why don't we just break down some walls? Hey, I'm an architect.
Yeah, right. So the elevator, it says like PH on their floor. So it's like, okay, penthouse.
Yeah.
And the elevator opens up and it's just a little area and their door. It doesn't make any sense. You're right. It definitely, you can move through it like you're moving from different place to different place because each of their rooms has a very different energy to it.
Right.
And the kitchen is just completely bananas.
Yeah, it's people talk about the apartment and Friends.
Right.
And
this is that on heroin.
A diaper's worth.
This is that on $250,000 worth of heroin. Yeah, diapers worth of heroin.
Yeah, no, this is or a lot of 1980s Wall Street cocaine.
Yeah, so Tom Selleck's character is a very successful architect. He's the type of guy who goes to ribbon cutting ceremonies and, he's in like big time commercial architecture.
In Manhattan,
in New
York
City.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which you have to be making a ton of money.
He can afford to live there.
Yes. And is it Michael? Steve Guttenberg's character has this comic strip. I don't know what that pays, but people know his character.
Isn't there like merchandise?
Cool.
Isn't there like Johnny Cool merchandise? Was he like supposed to be like Garfield or something?
I don't know, but that brings me to an interesting thing that I did not write down in my notes because I wanted to bring it up, but I wrote it down in my notes because it was the only document I had open where I could take notes. And Dan, let me ask you, if you were to have a Garfield podcast, would you call it Under Normal Circumstances or I, Zanya?
Under normal circumstances or I, Zanya, like I, Claudius, or
like I, Tanya, but I, Zanya, like lasagna.
Oh, yeah. Wow. I wish I had more preparation for this because I would have been able to.
I was not planning on bringing this up, but you brought up Garfield and I happened to write that down in my notes to just remind myself for another time.
I think
if you have an idea for a name for a Garfield podcast, write us, ruinchildhoodspod@gmail.com.
I mean, between those two, under normal circumstances.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And wow. So that's so strange because, of course, the other day I was on Twitter and I was ruining names of musicals by changing a letter because it was that week. And
it was that week.
It was that week. And I changed next to normal to Normal, a Garfield musical. So
I'd watch that.
Or
no, I
maybe
wouldn't.
would you just call it Odious?
Odious.
Odie? I don't know.
Yeah.
Odie cast? I don't know.
So,
all
right. So, Three Men and a Baby. It's completely insane. It has the famous story about there being a ghost of a child, and like the story is that the house that they were shooting in, there was like a kid who was murdered there, but that's impossible because they were shooting on a set, and it's been debunked as saying that what people are seeing as the ghost of a child is actually a cardboard cutout of Ted Danson that you see later in the movie. And when you look at the pictures, it's like, oh yeah, that's totally what it is. But I love that is the urban legend behind Three Men and a Baby.
Oh, going back, that one goes back, I mean, pretty much all the way to when it was released. That's not like a new like internet thing.
Right, but I think that like debunking it is a new internet thing because now people can actually, with DVDs and stuff like that, people can maybe more closely analyze
with that
things.
state-of-the-art 2020 DVD technology. No, I know what you mean.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
In the late 80s, they weren't able to go like frame by frame and like clear up the background of an image to better see what it looks like.
Not with your standard Sony VCR.
No,
Yeah.
not with your Sony VCR.
No. So Three Men and a Baby. It's a fun movie.
And then there's Three Men and a Little Lady. Dan, do you mind?
Go right ahead.
Jack, Michael, Peter, Sylvia, and Mary are back. It's about 5 years later, and the gang has settled into an amazingly impossible brownstone in New York. All is well until Sylvia's snooty mother comes to visit and gives her a hard time about not being married and raising her daughter with 3 American nincompoops. After a half-assed proposal from Jack and some grief from Peter, with whom she has grown quite fond, Sylvia accepts the marriage proposal of the snooty director of her play, Edward. This proposal comes at an even greater price. Sylvia and Mary would be moving to England with Edward. While Jack is off shooting a movie, Michael and Peter head to England to surprise Mary and Sylvia at the wedding, but Peter's affection for Sylvia gets the best of him, and he comes up with a new plan. He's going to prove to Sylvia that Edward has lied to her and intends to send Mary to an all-girls boarding school against Sylvia's wishes. After some farcical antics and the arrival of Jack into the mix, fulfilling the prophecy of the movie's title, the 3 men and the little lady interrupt the wedding, and Sylvia instead decides to marry Peter. Okay, so what's been actually really interesting, and one thing that I actually really liked about 3 Men and a Little Lady, is that when Jack, Ted Danson's character, comes to England, his role in the farce, in the whole scheme, is to replace the vicar who is going to be performing the ceremony. And he has this whole like latex face, hair, wig, ears, like this whole getup on to trick everybody into thinking that he's the replacement vicar. And it's so funny. He's so good at it. I love seeing Ted Danson doing goofy.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
Otherwise, 3 Men and a Little Lady is a movie that I consistently claim to not have seen until I go and read a synopsis and then realize that I have seen it at least once.
I think this was my first time seeing it, and both of the movies I believe are on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
So if you got it, you can check them out. It's nuts. The little girl who plays Mary is great. She is exactly the right amount of precocious and extremely likable. And, it doesn't seem weird that she's being raised by her mom and these 3 guys, one of whom is her actual father, but it's kind of implied that Tom Selleck's character, Peter, has taken on more of the actual father role.
Yeah.
Because Jack is still, doing his Jack thing.
Peter is like by far the most mature from the first film. And they make that clear with his job. Like Michael is clearly very successful in
Yeah.
his work. But there's just that sense that the job of the architect is taken more seriously, and therefore the architect is the most serious and mature one.
Sure. Yeah. And it's like Jack is getting commercials and he's getting roles in movies.
Yeah.
Like he is working, and I'm sure he's making decent money. Maybe not brownstone in Manhattan money, but
Yeah.
he's doing all right. He is in, they're like national commercials that he's in. So
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I'm sure he's doing fine.
Yeah.
I believe there was one for a laxative that comes up in this one, which of course is like always the joke to make when somebody is talking about like acting in a commercial. Of course, it's going to be about your stools.
Laxatives, erectile dysfunction.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of those.
Yeah, but people didn't talk about that at that time.
In 1990?
No.
No, not so much.
Yeah. So you now remember that you have seen this movie.
Yeah.
Do you remember much about it?
Oh, yeah, no, I remember the whole thing. I remember I was always confused because if we're supposed to oh God, what's Nancy Travis's character? Sylvia. We like Sylvia, but then why would Sylvia marry this guy who's so I remember this guy just being like obviously obnoxious. Talk about odious.
Yeah. Well, she's under pressure from her mom, who's got a real stick up her ass. And it's very weird. It's not a typical thing that happens. Her mom says you should be married. And then instantly she's like, yep, you're right. Okay, I guess I'll just accept the marriage proposal from this douchebag. And then like moves on. It's like no time really goes by. And Sylvia also is extremely successful.
Oh, yeah.
She's starring on Broadway, I believe.
Oh, yeah.
Like she's doing great.
No, if you think about it, of course, these movies are dated in the way that something like Mr. Mom, it's like, okay, yeah, we know the guys are clueless and, a baby, what do I do with this? And it's very much, it fits in that time. And in fact, if you think about it, in 1987, I think this was the third movie to come out that was like, a baby, what do I do with this? Because you had Baby Boom, and she's having a baby.
Yeah.
All that like fall.
Baby Boom is one that I constantly am about to watch and then ultimately decide to watch something else. I love Diane Keaton.
She's great.
I remember really loving Baby Boom, but for some reason I just like never pulled the trigger on actually watching it. But I don't know. Maybe we'll cover it on this podcast. Who knows?
I will. There's babies. There's Diane Keaton.
For anybody who is an avid listener and or is familiar with my wife's tendency to not remember the correct names for things or call things by the wrong name. I can't remember if this was one that she actually... No, we used to play a game where one of us would come up with... we would think of a name of a movie or something like that, and the other person would have to guess what it is. And without very many clues or anything like that. It's not like a 20 questions thing where you get all these clues. And I was thinking of Baby Boom, and she got very close. She guessed infant explosion. And that is what got us to Baby Boom. But so now whenever I see Baby Boom, I think infant explosion.
I'm fairly certain that I've heard that story before, and I will laugh that hard every time I hear that story. But if you don't know what we're talking about, I recommend that you go back into our archives for our Soap Dish episode.
Soap Dish
from last August.
Laura was on that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Masterfully inventing new names and melding different ones together.
Yeah.
Check it out. So, John, I'm pretty sure I heard talk of it that like they were trying to do a sequel like 3 Men and a Bride or...
Yes. So 3 Men and a Bride has been getting kicked around since I think like 13, maybe even earlier than that.
I think earlier than that. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was at the point where I think like the three guys, they were all on board, and I guess there was maybe a script, but nothing ever happened with it. And it seems like that plan is tossed because there allegedly is going to be a 3 Men and a Baby reboot series for Disney Plus.
Of course there is.
Yeah, although I do love the idea of Ted Danson, Tom Selleck, and Steve Guttenberg, although Tom Selleck is Blue Bloods still on the air? I know he was doing that for like 100 years.
I think so.
And, Steve Guttenberg, I don't know if he's really doing too much acting anymore. Clearly, Ted Danson still is active, but it'd be fun to see the three of them doing the thing again. And I think that, 3 Men and a Bride, sure, it makes sense.
Yeah.
To do something like that.
Sure. Let's see. Mary would be now 30, early 30s.
If you have the right people behind it,
yeah.
I think that's what really makes the difference.
Any ideas of,
but,
like, who would you, if you had to pick someone?
Yes. I would want it to be Dan Levy of Schitt's Creek. I was thinking Sam Richardson, who was on Detroiters and Veep.
Oh yeah.
And also his Detroiters buddy Tim Robinson, also of I Think You Should Leave. I think that would be a really fun.
That would be the three. Oh, I thought because I was like, oh, who would you have?
Oh, I thought you were talking about recasting for the series.
No. I meant like if you were gonna do a 3 Men and a Bride, which we know isn't happening.
Okay.
I think Dan Levy's a great creative mind.
Yeah.
To do that.
Oh yeah. Oh, so were you asking about the Mary for 3 Men and a Bride?
No, just like who would you have direct it? Who we were talking about, you need the right people behind the camera, and or write the script. So that's what I thought you were suggesting Dan Levy for.
Well,
which
no, but somebody who I've mentioned several times, who I think would be great, is John Francis Daly, who did Game Night. Another person who I think would be great, who just did The Lovebirds, is Michael Showalter. I would like either of them.
Okay.
How about you? Any thoughts?
Oh, of who I would put, because I just kind of felt like the idea, I felt like it was kind of like it was done. It wasn't going to happen. Jeez, you brought up Dan Levy. Now I'm just thinking about how well but how well Schitt's Creek has balance of really like hilarious and bizarre, like kind of outlandish situations, but like a ton of heart. And that's what a 3 Men and a blank
whatever
movie needs. If it's going to, I think, be a third, if this is going to make a trilogy with 3 Men and a Baby and 3 Men and a Little Lady, and of course it sounds like it's not going to happen, but whatever. I think he'd be great, and I think you could. I don't know who you would cast as Mary and Emma Stone.
I was thinking Mary Elizabeth Winstead.
Mary Elizabeth Winstead is great.
Yeah,
no conflicts there.
No conflicts there.
I have no conflicts.
There was also I don't know if rumor or if like this was something that was maybe going to happen, because I read about this on Fandango. And this was from an article from 2011, but that it was going to be remade with Adam Sandler as a producer and with David Spade, Chris Rock, and Rob Schneider playing the lead roles. And the concept is that they are all gay and together. I'm not quite sure. There's not much on, it's a very short article. I mean, I can go and read it. So it says, finds the guys as gay lovers. On top of that, Spade, Rock, and Schneider are going to be playing the lead roles, and Sandler's going to produce. Then they go on to just talk about other things that Sandler's going to do, like about to do Hotel Transylvania and star opposite himself in drag in Jack and Jill, out November. So,
oh boy.
Yeah.
We can be grateful.
So that was something that I guess is,
pass.
Yeah, it was being kicked around, I guess. I don't know. Dan, what would you do?
Yeah, I was trying to think about. I'm like, what backstory is there? Okay, do we really need a whole movie about how the three guys became friends? No, not really. Okay, so then what do you do? The concept of three men being like it seems a little outdated. So I was trying to think of the formula. How do you combine the formula? And at first I was like, oh, three men and an alien. Oh wait, that was Paul.
Right.
Where two guys just end up with an alien and end up in more trouble than.
And my favorite Lorenzo's oil joke of all time.
I think the only Lorenzo's oil joke outside of ours, which are references to that one.
Dan, that joke was written for us.
If not us, who else other than Nick Nolte and Susan Sarandon?
And Margot Martindale.
And Margot Martindale, God bless her for being in everything. So where I landed on this was I thought about what we do in the shadows. Because I thought about I was like, what if it was like three vampires and a werewolf? I'm like, or just like three vampires and a baby. What if they did that on What We Do in the Shadows?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you're right. The whole concept of men not knowing how to take care of a child is extremely outdated. However, I think that establishing them as being like career bachelors helps a little bit, where it's not as much of like a Mr. Mom situation where it's just like he is a dad but just doesn't know how to take care of his own kids.
But I think this time it should just all be like a bunch of like Wolf of Wall Street, like traders living together. Because I think that's the one circumstance where I would really want to see like, oh God, what are these three douchebags going to do now with this baby? And be like, I don't know, bro. What do you do, bro? I don't know. Do some push-ups. I don't know. Think about it.
No, man.
I don't know. I clearly should not be writing the script, but yeah.
No.
But yeah, so that's kind of where I landed on it. Was I would love to see it as a kind of an arc on What We Do in the Shadows, or if there was ever going to be another film, perhaps the plot of that, some type of three men and a baby parody where the vampires end up with the baby.
Well, and I mean, another thing, talking about like, well, I mean, yes, that's a movie, but also a TV show. But thinking about other like TV shows where it's like, doesn't necessarily have to be men. What if it was like, and I know this would never happen, but like a Broad City movie where it's Abby and Alana and like Bevers, John Gemberling, and they have to take care of a baby.
Okay.
Like Bevers has a child that he, is left on his doorstep, and they have to take care of this child. Like I could see that playing out amazingly. And the two of them not being men still works because they are ridiculous people. That's all you need to have is ridiculous people.
I totally agree with you. Totally agree. And I think that's an excellent example of who would be really great at this.
But the one thing that you would need is one character from the original 3 Men and a Baby to recur and be the same character doing the same exact thing, is the grocery store clerk who directs Tom Selleck to where the baby aisle is. A very young Dave Foley. That's right.
Really?
I was like, oh my God, that's Dave Foley. And he has like one line, and that's it. He's just like marking up packs of toilet paper or something. You got to bring him back for the new one.
No kidding.
As the same character.
And was Dylan Baker anywhere in the background?
No, sorry, Dan.
Sorry, Dylan. Am I thinking of the right? Yeah.
So, I think that we've established what needs to happen with this, and it is the Broad City or what they do in the shadows type of 3 Men and a Baby situation.
Now that you mention it, because I think at least how they present themselves on Broad City.
Yeah.
That to me would be funnier, though. I love the humor of What We Do in the Shadows. And
yeah, I haven't seen the series. I've seen the movie.
Yeah.
Have you watched the show?
I haven't seen the show yet, but I get the sense that it's a very similar style.
I love that the werewolves don't swear. They're very like polite. We're werewolves, not swearwolves.
Yes.
That part's so good.
It's so funny. Yeah.
So Dan, you were talking about Wall Street traders. That's going to lead perfectly into what we're going to be dealing with on our next episode of Ruined Childhoods.
Yes, because I don't even need to say the year because it's all going to be 1987. And we're taking a look at the John Cryer starring vehicle, which in 1987 could have meant a lot of things, but we are talking about Hiding Out.
Yes, and with us will be, my guess is number 2 on the call sheet, Keith Coogan.
Keith Coogan, yes, plays John Cryer's cousin in this.
Yeah,
in
Keith
Hiding
Coogan,
Out.
also of Adventures in Babysitting, Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead.
Toy
really,
Soldiers.
Toy Soldiers, grandson of Jackie Coogan.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we're really excited to have Keith on to talk about Hiding Out.
Can't
and
wait.
let's try not to embarrass ourselves.
We're going to be talking about Hiding Out. I don't know if I can help it, but
I love Hiding Out. I'm
It's
really
a
excited
fun-
to talk about it.
it is a fun movie. If you haven't seen it, it is currently streaming on Prime, Amazon Prime.
It's on, yeah, I think so. I think it recently got added, so it should be on for a while.
Yeah, or like one of the other million streaming services that just came online. So,
It's crazy, man.
Hiding Out, John Cryer, 1987. The legend lives on.
I've been adding a list of all the movies that we've been doing to a list on Letterboxd. My name on there, I think, is just John Richardson. And feel free to follow me on there, and you'll be able to watch my diary of what I watch every day, which lately, since I've been getting through Cheers, hasn't been a daily thing, but a near daily thing.
Oh,
But
man.
I've been writing reviews for each movie as haikus.
Oh, Riku's?
Sometimes they're not reviews as much as they are just commenting about some aspect of the movie, but in the form of a haiku.
That's a great idea.
Thanks.
I'm going to go read some.
And make sure to subscribe to our new podcast, Under Normal Circumstances, aka Izania. And just kidding, we're not doing that. But so yeah, follow us at Ruined Childhoods Pod on Instagram, ruinedchildhoodspod@gmail.com. If you have anything that you want to add. You got anything else?
Let us know. No, like let us know what are your favorite movies from 1987.
Yeah, we haven't decided the full roster for the rest of the month, so
No, and I know that we're going
I'd love
to
to hear your thoughts.
I know we're going to do an episode where we talk about all the movies that we're not going to go into depth on. So
I don't know about all of the movies that we're not going to go into full detail on.
No, it's
That's
going
a
to
lot
be
of
like
movies.
it is going to be a We Didn't Start the Fire of 1987 movies.
It's just listing the
Okay.
movies and then
Spaceballs,
hitting
RoboCop,
the stop button.
Untouchables. I'm gonna stop. I don't know. Yeah,
very nice.
I don't know. I'll work on it for next time. So that's
And
it.
to quote a 1987 movie, Dan,
I've been looking for you. Sorry. Good journey.
close.
Good
Good
journey.
journey.
Kick it! Huh! Introducing Matt, Peter, and Jack. We're your ramming three dads doing the merry rap. You're just a little lady and you need to go to sleep. Don't want to hear no job talking about something to eat. Break down. Lights out. Here we go.
We will party down Lady Kill and dance until dawn till your food spitting toilet train and change us all.
Now we're situated, bachelor stated fathers in waiting, who'd rather hang with you than the one he's been dating. Say, Mary, did you wash your face?
Yo! Say, Mary, did you brush your teeth? Yo! Now, Mike, be nimble.
Peter, be quick. Jack, bust a rhyme and make it slick.
And little Lady Mary, we say, please just close your eyes and cop some Z's. Just close your eyes and cop some Z's. Wiki, 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 wiki. Just close your eyes.